Hey everybody, good morning. How are you? Happy Thursday. So nice to see everybody here. I'm seeing quite a few people coming in via Instagram and a couple of my other platforms. So, we're trying something new today. I am broadcasting on four different platforms at the same time. So, this is a little bit of a test for how long I can broadcast and also just with the different software that I'm trying. But thank you for being here today. It's a beautiful Thursday out where I live. I'm on the west coast of the United States. It's early Thursday morning for me. I know that for some of you in your parts of the world, it's a little bit later. But I want to thank you for joining me. And it looks like we're going to have a great turnout for this stream today. I'm trying a new software today, so I'm going to do my best to monitor all the chats and I'm going to read the questions out loud so that people can kind of see the different questions. Also, one of the things I learned last time is that Instagram does limit live streams to 1 hour. So my intent is to only stream for 1 hour today to let all my Instagram folks be able to ask questions and whatnot because Instagram will cut off the stream at 1 hour. So hopefully I'll be able to stop that ahead of time. But I'm seeing a really great list of people on Instagram. If you guys want to just say hello, just let me know where you're calling in from. I already see Rue Pack. Hello to you too. Thank you for coming. You know, I try to keep these talks not necessarily technical because my specialty is working with corporate clients that aren't always technical, and I take pride in being able to explain things in a simple way. So don't feel like you have to, you know, have some sort of really deep technical knowledge to participate. Feel free to just let me know where you're from and all that. Hey, Obey Mike. Hey, from New Jersey. What part of New Jersey? I actually just moved from there. I lived in the greater New York area. So let me know what part of New Jersey you're from. Very nice state out there. Aman tells me that video and sound is lagging. You know, I think that's going to be something that I'm going to kind of work through, you know, maybe through my own web connection and also the software that I'm using. I am using a rebroadcaster to help go to all four platforms. You know, maybe I don't need to go to four platforms. You guys tell me. It kind of depends on, you know, just kind of what the turnout looks like and all that. So in addition to Instagram, I'm also getting some stuff on YouTube. Hey, Priyanka, good to see you on YouTube. And good morning to you too. Yurkin from Rabat, Morocco. Beautiful. I've spent quite a bit of time in Morocco. So nice to see Morocco joining us. Firebrand J, we had some communication this week. Joining us from Atlanta, Georgia. Nice to see you. Obey Mike's writes that he's from Jersey City. Oh, great, great. I used to live in Harrison, not too far from Jersey City. So definitely familiar with that area. I still have friends in Jersey City, as a matter of fact. Saji Kutan writes, hello from India. Hello to you too. I think that you and I had some communication earlier this week. I about 20%, 18% of my audience is from India. So I do try to make this broadcast friendly to the Indian time zone. So thank you all for joining me from India. So yeah, great turnout so far. So hey, we have our first question, first couple of questions coming in already. Let me make sure I didn't miss anybody else who told me where they were from. I think that's it for Instagram. Okay, so let's start over on YouTube. Priyanka asks, please recommend some beginner to expert level books for DS. Well, that's that's quite a broad question there. Are you beginner or are you expert level? So, you know, you can only take in so much for data science, right? So don't try to build an entire library right from the beginning. So let me know a little bit more about the level that you're at, and that way I can recommend books for that appropriate level. Andrew writes, my name is Andrew. I'm from England. Currently, I'm working on my thesis. My topic is feature engineering and fusion cancers diagnosis. Wow, good for you. What can you recommend me? Where can I find a good data set? Ooh, tough question, Andrew. Historically speaking, medical data sets are very difficult to come by, right? And you'd have to give us a little bit more explanation on what kind of data you're looking for. Are you looking for imaging data? Are you looking for more like text data, right? There's a lot of medical reports out there, hospital data. Are you looking at like um, like acute care and admissions data, or are you looking for like long-term studies data, right? So that you're going to have to kind of broaden down that scope there. Um, Claire Stipan, I believe is how I'm pronouncing it. Excuse me, folks. I'm still kind of getting over my cold from last week. I'm going to try to hit the mute button as often as I can. So Claire Stippen writes to us, I'm going into post-production data science. Do you have any recommendations for me in learning that? Help me understand what you mean by post-production data science. I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that. Do you mean like you just recently graduated and you're looking to kind of like go into the field of data science? Help me understand what that means, please. Okay, Aviral Verma writes to us, I am at an intermediate level in SQL, good for you, but I want to increase my intuitive skills and solve complex queries. Any recommendations? That's a really good question. It depends on how you've learned SQL and what data sets you have at your disposal. My recommendation to anyone that's always looking for SQL is to pick up the Practical SQL Handbook. I don't think I've done a video on that yet. I probably should. But the Practical SQL Handbook is available on Amazon. It's been available forever. It's probably like 20 years old now, that book. But that book has taught more people SQL than anything else I know. And it's going to teach you whether you're a beginner or even super advanced. And what I also like is that it breaks out, it tells you like specific SQL commands that only work for like PL/SQL or transactional SQL, TSQL, right? So I would pick up that and see if that can't help you, because that's going to help you more with the complex joins and queries. Because that's really what you mean when you're talking about complex queries, right? You're talking about complex joins and a lot of subqueries, right? If your database supports subqueries. So that's what I would do if I was looking to advance my SQL skill. Keeping with Instagram, NOSCKID writes, my name is Dixon from Benin. Hey, Benin, welcome. What time is it in Benin? I kind of know what part of the world that is, but what time is it over? It's pretty late over there, isn't it? I'm done learning Python and practicing to better myself. What do you recommend I do to get into DS? Okay. There is a book out there called Doing Data Science. I've done a video on it. That book to me is a great book that is a good bridge. And actually, Claire, I just saw your response. So Claire, this is a good response to you too. Doing Data Science is a great book for the bridge between your academics and how data science is done in the real world. And what you really should be paying attention to there is the methodology that you're going to follow through a life cycle of a data science project. Because that's one of the things the academics don't really teach you, right? Academic data science is very like data set and project based, right? Here's your nice clean data set. Here's some code examples, go do it, and we'll grade you on it, right? That's academic data science. That's not how it's done in the real world, right? You've learned skills, but that's not how we do it in the real world. Data sets aren't always easily available. Data isn't always clean. You have to follow a methodology that you kind of bring up on your own. So that's probably the biggest challenge with you, where you're going to have to make that bridge between your academics and how it's done in the real world. And Doing Data Science, it's an O'Reilly book, is excellent for that. So pursue that, and that should help you say, oh, yeah, I learned how to do clustering algorithms, but this is how it's really done in the real world or whatnot. So that's what I would recommend for somebody. I think his name was Dixon, and also for Claire. where you're looking to make that move from academics into the real world of data science. Okay, I hope that helps. I'm sorry, I'm not going to try your name because I would probably butcher your name, but it's on Instagram, and he writes, is it okay to use synthetic dataset if dataset is publicly unavailable to do a project since I am doing a data science course? Is it okay to mention in a CV if a synthetic dataset is used? Um, that's a great question. It's a very unique question. Tell me why you wouldn't want to use it, because my initial reaction is to tell you, sure, yeah, go ahead. I think it's great. Why wouldn't you want to use that? Are you like, what's the concern there? What, are you like, do you think people would like lower that project on your CV or give you some sort of mark because it's using a synthetic data set? Or let me know what the concern is. I want to understand your question a little bit more. But my gut reaction to it is, yeah, there's nothing wrong with a synthetic data set if that's what the individual project called for. But let me know. Maybe I'm missing something there. Firebrand J, good to see you here, my friend. This is an interesting question. On average, how many SQL questions are asked in DS interviews? Any ratio, or how advanced should I dive into it? That's a really good question. I don't know if there's any like measure for that. Like, I can't tell you, oh, it's always going to be 10%. That wouldn't be accurate. And I don't want to misguide you that way. So you know what? That's a good question for the chat. So you know what? If you're watching right now, let's help out Jay here. Let's share some experiences from your past interviews. How many times have you seen SQL questions? I think this is a really good, almost like a little mini poll that we can take here. I'm trying to think about my own interviews, and I think I only asked like one or two SQL questions. I don't ask a lot of SQL questions. I'd rather focus on methodology and theory in my interviews. But you know what? You guys can go ahead and tell me. Go ahead and add in your comments. Think about the last few interviews that you've had for data science positions, and go ahead and tell me how many SQL questions you've had in those interviews. Another thing here, Jay, is that it's probably going to also depend on which jobs you're applying for. If you're applying for a pure like data science modeling job, I would probably think that's less SQL, as opposed to if you were applying to like a data engineering job or a data pipeline creator, right? That's presumably more SQL heavy. So I think it kind of also depends on like what part of the team you're looking to join. But you guys can tell me. Please let me know how many times you've been asked SQL questions in the past. In your most recent interviews. It'd be good to see that. I'm curious about it too. All right, so Obey Mike from Jersey City asks, hey, I'm a current computer science major, finishing my bachelor's, and I plan to do a master's in data science. Any recommendations for side projects to start building a portfolio? So that's a great question, Mike. And we kind of had a little bit of discussion on this last week. So I'm glad you brought it up because I would love to speak more on this topic. The biggest thing that I would tell anybody is, one, it's important to just start, right? The fact that you're doing it is a good thing, right? So try not to have paralysis by analysis. Try to actually get started, write down your process and write the code and do it and publish it. Put it out on a small blog, write a LinkedIn article about it or whatever it is. But the point is that you're able to, do it yourself and actually publish your results. The second thing that kind of comes along with that is try to source your own project and your own data based on what interests you and your own efforts, because that's going to go a whole lot further than saying, well, I happen to come across this data set and I reproduced it, right? Because that's kind of academic stuff, right? Like Like if you're a student, right? Everybody's done the Titanic data set. Everybody's done the Iris data set, right? Try not to do that. Try to find your own data and form your own hypothesis, form your own questions, and then be able to publish that out, right? This is what I did when I made the move into data science. I started just publishing my own work and doing my own things. So, as an example, and I gave this example last time, but I think it's a good one. I found this like online lottery that was being publicized, and in the terms and conditions of the lottery, they published like some of like the like how they were picking the winners, and like how many winners there would be and all this other stuff. And then based on that, you could develop like the odds and the probabilities. They publish enough numbers that you could translate it into odds and probabilities and like do the statistics behind it. So I would do that. I would go out and I would find like these contests or things like that. I would take apart the terms and conditions and I would say, here's what this contest means. Here's how many winners are going to have. Here's your probabilities of winning, so on and so forth. And that was all stuff that I sourced on my own. And I developed like my own articles on it. Or I would also take other studies or other surveys that like say like sometimes like if you find like a government survey, they will also give you a link to the raw data. So take the raw data and do something else with that, right? Like maybe there was a survey question that their study didn't answer that you could answer. And you can do that because you have their same raw data, right? So the point is that you're developing your own methodology and your own approach to how you're going to solve things. And that's a super valuable skill to be able to do that, to say, I found this article, I went out and I got the data, I developed my own questions of what I wanted to answer. Here's the model I developed for that. Here's the code for the model. And now I'm going to publish that out. That makes for a super powerful example that you could give somebody, during an interview. Or maybe you turn that into a conference talk, right? You can take that article and send it and submit it to a conference and say, hey, I want to speak at this conference based on this work that I wrote, my original work that I wrote, right? Conference people are always looking for submissions like that, if it's interesting and it fits the conference and things like that. So that's what I would suggest in terms of things that you could be doing to kind of build up your portfolio. So I hope that helps, Mike. All right, I'm keep going down my Instagram list. And, please, again, feel free to introduce yourself and just let us know where you're from, what your experience in data science. Not every question has to be technical. You can certainly just ask anything you want to talk about. It's a Thursday, so we're close to the weekend. So happy to chat whatever you guys want. Okay, so coming back to the question of synthetic data sets, my mentor has concerns mentioning in the CV. I am planning to do an investment risk analysis with ESG and other financial metrics. Awesome. I'd love that topic. ESG is a huge topic. I'm going to guess that you are not in the US. If you are in Europe, ESG is a super popular topic in Europe. So I would completely encourage you to keep going down that study road. I think that's something that catches up a lot of attention. So coming back to it, I don't think that there's any risk there in your synthetic data set. One of the reasons, and you might know more about this than I do. I'm not claiming to be an expert in this, but my understanding is that one of the reasons why ESG is popular in Europe is because there are some very serious fines and laws associated with ESG now in Europe. So the risk of using a synthetic data set can easily completely outweigh the fines or the liability that a company would be under if they didn't pay enough attention to ESG or have an appropriate model for some of their ESG activities, right? So I would say go for it as far as a synthetic data set. You're going to have to work those things out with your mentor, with your stakeholder, as far as any other hesitancies or whatnot. But when it comes to ESG, I think that, something is better than nothing, right? So keep going down that road. Let us know how that turns out. Okay, coming back to Claire. Do you have any practice in Python? If so, what is a good way to strengthen my Python skills? Great question, Claire. I love the question. I'm going to keep on answering that based on the assumption that you are, a student coming out, going into the real world. And there was a little bit of discussion about this week in my Instagram account. And I want to maybe do a little bit more of a longer form video on this. But one of the things that you're going to realize as you use Python more, as your career grows more, is you have to learn how to write programs in Python, not scripts in Python. Python kind of suffers from this, it suffers from its own success because there's so much stuff online for it. But so much stuff online treats it like a scripting language and like a procedural language, which Python is, right? But Python is 100% more powerful than that, right? People kind of use it as a scripting language because all the examples they see are scripting languages, and because they use it in notebooks, and notebooks are really kind of procedural, right? Or a script, it kind of takes a scripting approach to it, right? But if you really want to take your Python to another level, and by saying that, I really mean a professional level, right? Kind of the difference of how you're just playing around with Python versus being a professional with Python is to, 1, no more notebooks. 2, everything you write from now on is a program, not a script. So I want to see an entry point into main. And then usually when you have that, you're going to have a class associated with it, right? So no more scripts, everything is in a class, and you access things from outside that program, from outside that class in your main functions, in your main methods, and you address it as a class. When you start doing that and you start kind of structuring your code that way, that's kind of like the difference between I'm a student of Python versus I'm a professional developer. So you're going to need that, and it also just kind of adds a little bit more of a polish to your code, right? So I want you to start thinking about that. Think of yourself as a program developer, not a script developer in Python. And then if you want to kind of take that another step further and to also kind of show you the power of what I'm suggesting to you, is start looking into multi-threading in Python. Because 1, you're going to need that in data science at some point. And 2, it's impossible to do multi-threading in a procedural way or in a script way, right? You kind of have to have like that class and object mindset in order to do that. But when you do that, like Python is like super powerful, right? Python can be great for multi-threading applications, right? So, maybe you don't want to get into multi-threading right away. Get more into the class management and class development first. But if you start kind of looking ahead to that, you can see how well, wait a minute, I can't write that multi-threading code if all I do is write scripts, or I can't do that with a notebook. It's impossible for me to do that with a notebook. When you start thinking in those terms, that's when you've really gone from I learned Python in school to I'm a legitimate professional Python developer. I'm using Python to generate my paycheck now, right? That to me is kind of the difference between those. So I hope that helps. It's not an easy road. It's going to take you some time, but remember, write programs, not scripts in Python, and I think that'll help you. But great question, Claire. I love the question. Okay, coming back to YouTube, I'm seeing some more YouTube questions, so I want to make sure I read these out so that people across all platforms can see them. Samir Sen, good to see you. I am 20 years old from Nepal. Hey, wow, I'm getting people from all over today. That's great. We've had India, the US, Benin, Nepal, England. I think we had Andrew from England. So, wow, really international audience. I love this. I love traveling, so I love seeing all these people. Okay, 20 years old from Nepal, undergraduate in artificial intelligence. Congratulations. I want to grow my career in business development, and I am currently preparing for a founder intern role. Can you guide me to being successful in my career path? Thank you in advance. Um, yeah, welcome. I love the fact that we're getting people from all over. Currently preparing for a founder intern role. Help me understand what you mean by that. I'm taking that to mean that you're going to be an intern at a startup. Like, is this a startup? Is that what you mean by founder intern? So Samir, send me an additional chat. Let me know what you mean by that. And let me know if your internship has a focus. Is it a data science internship? Because you also mentioned business development, so maybe it's a biz dev internship. Please send me some clarification there. Would love to know more about that. Okay. And hey guys, while we're in between the two different chats there, because I'm going to go back to the Instagram chat. If you're not following me on YouTube or not following me on Instagram, I really appreciate you going to my platforms and clicking on the follow button. I try to make different content for each of the platforms, or sometimes I'm streaming at different times on the different platforms. So would really appreciate your follow and your support on all of them. Thank you so much for that. All of my accounts have had great growth over this past month, more than I anticipated. So really happy that you're here, but please make sure you click on like and follow on all the platforms. Thank you. All right, Jody DiBiase. Hey Jody, good morning. Let us know where you're writing from. Jody from Trinidad. Wow, fantastic. Thank you. So we're getting all parts of the world, huh? Trinidad's in the Caribbean, I believe. Okay, so what is a good cert to start data science? I am currently doing the Microsoft Azure one. Please help. Jody, I think you're on the right track. I don't think there's any need to change that. Microsoft Azure is definitely, one of the clouds that is very popular out there. As you may know, Microsoft made a significant investment in OpenAI. So the OpenAI tools are increasingly available within the Azure cloud also. So I would feel, if I was in your position, I would feel very optimistic about pursuing the Azure certifications. Because this is really one of the places where the Microsoft Cloud has managed to kind of win one over on AWS, right? AWS not having ChatGPT is probably not ideal for the long term, right? So stick with the Azure certifications. I don't see any need for you to switch course or anything else like that. So good luck with that. Let us know how it goes. I think you're on the right track with the Azure certifications. Okay, Jody also writes a follow-up. I'm in business intelligence and really wanted to get the data science. Well, welcome. Business intelligence makes a great background for data science. Okay. Oh gosh, I'm going to try this name. I'm sorry if I mispronounce it. Shashankasi? I am from data engineering background. My primary stack is Scala, Spark, and SQL. Beginner to intermediate level. Recommendation to get into data science and probably stay with data engineering as well. Okay, that can be done. You sound like you have a perfect background for a data engineering or a data pipeline team. And that is becoming increasingly important to data scientists. Or I shouldn't say becoming important. I should say that data science teams are recognizing how important that is. So I think that you should apply for data science positions while also emphasizing your Scala, Spark, and SQL skill. A lot of teams are going to be valuing that and saying, hey, we kind of need somebody who's going to be dedicated to the pipeline builds, right? That's a pretty high demand skill right now. So I would say that you're on the right track. Don't be afraid to apply to data science positions, because a lot of teams out there, they'll put a data science posting out there, but they'll really look at resumes and say, oh yeah, but we really need this skill, right? So I would say you're in a fine position to go ahead and start applying. You'd be surprised how much teams are going to recognize the value in the three technologies that you mentioned. So good luck with that. Let me know how it goes. But I'd say you're just fine to go ahead and apply to data science positions. All right. All right, I'm going to come back to YouTube. Samir, I know you sent me some more information, but I want to stick with Instagram for now because Rack5102 asks a great question. I love this question. How important is communication in data science? It is extremely important. In fact, I have a video out this week. I want to do a longer video on this, but I think that communication, particularly communication with emotional intelligence, is super important in data science. So I love the question, Rack. Thanks for being here. You can't be a data scientist without having significant contact with stakeholders, right? And you're going to have multiple conversations, multiple types of conversations with stakeholders. You're going to have stakeholders that you have to say no to, right? Because you can't do every data science project out there. So that's the first kind. The second kind is the stakeholders that you do work with, you're going to have to engage them a lot throughout the process because you're going to need them for human validation, right? And to help validate the results of your model. So that's a whole other type of stakeholder engagement that you're going to need communication skills for. And then in the third instance, you're also, in some cases, you're going to have to also sell them on the results of your model. Because the reality is that sometimes your models that you deploy with your stakeholders are going to kind of shatter some of their previous notions, their previous biases, right? So sometimes you're going to have to sell them on the results, and they're going to say, no, the model can't be right. We haven't done business that way in the past. Well, that's just a bias, right? So you're going to have to sell them on why your model is solid and you followed a good methodology and here are the results. And hey, we really think you should be trying this instead of this. All of that is stakeholder communication, right? And keep in mind, I'm just talking about the stakeholder side. There's other benefits to proper emotionally intelligent communication with your teammates, with your bosses, how you become a leader. Good communication usually ends up with you leading with empathy, and being an empathetic leader is super important in data science and really in all fields, right? So, Rack, I love the question. I don't know if you're asking that because you're looking at some communication courses or things like that. If you are, or anybody else here, I would encourage people to do that because it is super important. Your career, I guarantee you that your career will have a ceiling if you are unable to communicate with stakeholders or generally communicate in an emotionally intelligent way. So I'm going to do more videos on this. I think it's a really important topic. So thank you for the question. Love those types of questions. These are exactly the types of conversations that I have with my executive clients as far as, how teams run better, because these you can only get so good at modeling, right? Like data science modeling. But the way you communicate, the way you run the teams, the way you lead the teams is what makes the difference between the good teams and the great teams. So love the question. Thank you so much. Okay, coming back to our YouTube. So Instagram, keep the questions coming. I see a lot of people joining in. So many people on Instagram. Keep the questions coming. But I'm going to come back to YouTube here. Our friend Samir has added more information. It is a data science internship in a startup focused on business development based on data, working closely with the CEO and CTO. Good for you. That sounds like a great internship. And it sounds like you are doing it at a startup, which is great. So your experience may differ. I can only share what my experience has been. But for me, part of the fun of startups is that they're going to give you one title, but you really end up doing a bunch of other different things, right? That's kind of, and to me, that's part of the fun of being in a startup, that a startup is like a different thing every single day. I used to do a lot of work with startups. I used to do it on a consulting basis a lot. And you're brought in for, in some cases I was brought in as a developer, but you end up helping the biz dev guy because the biz dev guy is kind of new, or it's his first working experience, or whatever the case may be, right? So you sound like a smart guy, especially if you're already taking a data science course. But what I would tell you is remain flexible. because that's really the key to succeeding in a startup role. There, don't just say, well, I'm the biz dev intern or I'm the data science intern. Just be available. Be available to whatever they're going to ask of you or whatever you kind of pick up in the office or things like that. Because in a proper startup, you're going to be tossing all sorts of ideas around. You're going to overhear people talking about this and that. The company overall is going to want to make quick pivots. That's kind of the point of being a startup, right? So just be flexible, keep your ears open, contribute where you can, and just stay ready, right? I'm sure they'll give you individual tasks of things to do for a day or for a week or whatever, but stay ready for the other things that may come. That's kind of why you would want to join a startup like this, right? But to me, it sounds like you're in a great position if you're going to be working with the CEO and CTO. So stay ready. You sound like a smart guy, and I'm sure you'll do fine. Let us know how it goes, okay? I always like hearing about people's successes or failures with interns. In my career, I've had multiple interns work for me. Some I've hired, some I've not. But it's always fun to kind of go down that road and get started. So good luck to you, my friend. All right, coming back to Instagram. Nobody knows S. Hi, sir. I'm currently doing my master's in data science, who has 60% mathematics. Can you suggest some projects in finance? Tons of things available there, right? Lots of rich data sets available in finance. So I think I'm going to leave that up to you to figure out what you want to do with that. If you want, you can start by looking at some of the white papers that are currently available, because there's plenty of financial white papers out there. Start looking at some white papers and start trying to replicate their results, right? I mean, the reason you publish white papers, it's because it's part of the peer review process, right? That you publish your results and other people should be able to replicate those results. That's part of the scientific process, right? So go do that. There's no shortage of financial white papers. There's entire conferences on financial white papers, right? So good luck to you there. Let us know how that turns out. I am Yusuf from Manchester. Great. So we're getting some Western Europe folks in here. Welcome, Yusuf. With a master's in data science, congratulations. Many thanks for your mentorship. You're welcome. I'm happy to do this. This is fun for me. It's been really challenging landing an interview. I have my portfolio on Medium and GitHub. Could you please advise? So I'll let you guys in on a little secret. I've done plenty of interviews, plenty of hiring over my career. I have never once checked somebody's GitHub. I just don't. I'm sure other people might, but I just don't. I don't check GitHubs. Have I checked Mediums? I might have checked Mediums or like articles people write, like if it's on their LinkedIn, I might quickly look at it. But I want to encourage you in two things. One, attitude is important. And two, understand the methodology of data science. So the first part is about the attitude. And I spoke about this a little bit in previous chats. Being coachable is super important in especially early in your career, right? Everybody who is in my position that wants to hire somebody wants somebody that they can coach, that they can work with. Or sometimes, I'll run an interview for another person, like another manager. Another manager asks me to run an interview for them. That's because some companies require that, right? Where multiple people have to interview you. And the number one question other managers always ask me is, do you think this candidate is coachable, right? So I would try to do the best I can to display that in an interview, to say, hey, I went to school, I had this great academic career, I have my master's, but I'm also here to listen, I'm here to learn, I'm here to learn about how you guys, practice data science and the code and the tools that you use. You want to show that you're coachable, right? The second thing I would advise you, coming back to the two things, is the methodology. and understanding what it means to do data science in the real world. So, for example, one of the things that academics doesn't really teach you is academics doesn't really teach you how to deploy a model, right? Virtually every course, every project you did, once the model shows the right results, that's it, right? You hand it in, you're graded on it, and you're done. Nobody ever asks you to put a UI on it or to create an API layer or things like that, right? So take one of your projects and create an API layer for it. And then if you want, put like a GUI on it or something to access that API layer and use that as your example project, right? You don't want to show like a prediction project about, some sort of financial data like we were speaking about earlier, right? There's a ton of examples like that. A ton of classes have examples like that. But if you can show, hey, I took that project, but then I took it upon myself to learn how to do a Python API. I wrote these 3 API endpoints, and here's how you would access those endpoints. Well, now you're walking into that interview, one, understanding that you're going to need that, right? And 2, now you're showing something that most academic people aren't going to have. Because again, school doesn't ask you to do that, right? So that's what I would advise you, Yusuf. Don't worry so much about, I got to have the perfect GitHub with the right colors on my little GitHub history chart. That's probably overblown, right? The importance of that is probably overblown. Try to focus on saying, okay, I want to be coachable. I want to display that I can learn, and I want to show that I'm not just an academic student. That I was able to take. Excuse me. I was able to take another project and take it an extra step further into something that can be used in the real world. All right. So I hope that helps you. So, excuse me. Okay, coming back, Muaz Suleiman. I'm a business analyst student in the Faculty of Computing and Data Science. What project would you recommend as a graduation project that is related to my specialization in data science? You're going to have to give me a little bit more information, like what industries are you targeting after graduation? Maybe you should pick something from one of those industries, right? Maybe there's like a industry journal or industry news that you could pull from. But I'm going to need a little bit more information to really kind of help you out there. Or also I hope that some of the discussion that you've heard now has maybe help you generate ideas of what to do, right? Don't just do a project, but also do the GUI for it, or also show the real world applications of it. All right, so feel free to add more detail if you'd like. How do I get into data science? I studied BI in college and work as in SAP Mastersta. Matej, can you give me more details on that? It sounds like you had a BI degree but are working in SAP. Help me understand that. Please provide a few more details, please. Okay. Wow, still quite a few more questions left in Instagram, but happy to see all of you guys here. Feel free to press on the like and the follows. Same for YouTube. I'm still seeing some folks in YouTube. I'm going to promise to get back to the YouTube questions, but I'm trying to cover the Instagram ones because I know that we're going to run out of time here pretty soon. Okay, so my name is Somya. Which area should given focus in data science for one who plans to enter this field with a career gap? So tell us a little bit more about that. How long is the career gap? What did you do before the career gap? And is there any compelling reason why you're going back into the workforce now? Give me some more details on that. Hopefully I can help guide you a little bit more, because career gaps can always be an interesting thing. But give me a little bit more background on that, please, okay? Sir, Google Advanced Analytics Certifications or Microsoft Power BI Data Scientist Associate Certification should I take? I'm going to give you the same advice I gave to Jody earlier. Some of the Microsoft certifications are going to have a leg up because of their relationship with OpenAI. again, that's something where both Google and AWS kind of dropped the ball, right? Microsoft really scooped in and created that partnership very quickly with them. So I think that if you are on any sort of Microsoft related track, you're in a good spot. So I see no reason to switch over from what you're doing. Okay, so keep going with that. It's 1290. Writes, hi, I graduated with a BS in math. Congratulations. This fall, I'll be starting my MS in data science. Good for you. How can I prepare for the computer science side of data science given I don't have a computer science background? Okay, great question. Um, I'm good on Python for your career, but most academic courses still focus quite a bit on R. Nothing wrong with that. R is a decent language. I've even spoken at an R conference. I spoke at an R conference in 2017, something like that. Nothing wrong with R, but it's going to have a ceiling. But you might find yourself learning both of those languages, both R and Python. R for your academic side, maybe some Python, and then certainly Python as you move on. So what I would focus on is when you're learning Python for data science, you're really also learning pandas, right? You want to learn data frames and you want to learn basically how to manipulate data. So the book for that, and I have a video on this, is Python for Data Analysis, written by Wes McKinney. If you pick up that book, and even if you don't have a programming background, you're going to do just fine. And the way I would approach that book is by thinking about it as an Excel spreadsheet and thinking about, okay, well, in Excel, I usually take a column and I do the sum or I do the average. How do I do that in Python and pandas? Well, the book teaches you that. The book shows you how to do that, how to filter rows, how to get the means and the averages, how to take two data sets and glue them together, right? All the things that you're thinking about in Excel, it'll teach you how to do programmatically with Python and pandas. And if you can do that, if you can get through that book, you're going to be in a really good spot to learn everything else. Because if you do that, then you're relying on the classes to teach you things like the modeling, right? And how to do that in code. And the good thing there is that you'll basically be on equal footing with the rest of the class, because it sounds like that's what you're concerned about, right? That, maybe your bachelor's in math didn't really teach you a lot of programming. So you're not going to be behind as long as you're able to walk in with some understanding of Python and pandas. Again, Python for Data Analysis by Wes McKinney. And then from there, add the modeling skills that the classes are going to teach you. So 1290, I hope that helps. But that's the advice I would give to you as far as, kind of building up your programming knowledge. Don't go buying computer science books or taking computer science courses. That's not going to be helpful for you. You can learn Python on your own. Get yourself that book. Watch some stuff online. But that'll kind of help even the playing field for you, walking into this master's. Let me know how that goes, or if you have any follow-up questions. Hi, I'm Rishi from Maryland. Oh, wonderful. I love the Maryland area. I went to school in Washington, D.C., so I love them. I love that whole mid-Atlantic area. Was wondering what specific skills, projects, etc. you think are especially useful to showcase when trying to land internship interviews. This is from Rishi M100. So thanks for being here, Rishi. Nice to meet you. Same thing I mentioned earlier, right? Especially for interns, be coachable. The challenge with internships is that, when I hire them, is that I get them for such a short period of time, right? Usually my internships I hire for 10 weeks, right? I have an intern for 10 weeks. That's it. So I need to know that you're going to be somebody that wants to learn. I need a sponge to be following me around, right? To just be able to take in things, right? So that's what I would say should be what you're trying to get across in the interviews, right? That you're coachable, that you're willing to understand, that you're willing to learn things, that you're open-minded, that, hey, I'm a student and I'm going to do my best, but I'm also here to learn. You want to display all of that. You want to display enthusiasm. You also want to display enthusiasm for the field that you're looking into, right? Because, that's another thing that's key, guys. When you're going into an internship, most of the time you're kind of just taking anything that's available, right? So you might get an internship, let's say, at a manufacturing plant, but you're not interested in manufacturing. You want to be in finance, but that's okay, right? You still want to go in there and gain that experience. So don't go in there with the attitude of, well, these guys don't do finance or manufacturing. Go in there and be all about manufacturing, right? Be enthusiastic about it, especially during the interviews, right? Because think about this, the person interviewing you, their whole life is manufacturing, right? They don't care about you in finance. They want to know that you're enthusiastic about what they do, right? So those are the things that I would advise you, Rishi. Go in there demonstrating that you're willing to learn, that you're willing to, again, just be coachable and show enthusiasm for the industry that you're seeking, right? It may not be what you want to do afterwards, but at least show enthusiasm for, hey, I'm here for the summer. I want to learn. I want to know what you guys are about. And I think that's going to help you land, or that's going to help you, kind of stand out in those interviews. Okay, so good luck with that, Rishi. All right, I'm going to keep going with Instagram. We have a few more minutes here, guys. I'm going to run out of time here because, again, Instagram cuts us off at 1 hour. I hate that happened last time during our stream, so we're going to cut early, okay? All right, Bhavana V writes to us on Instagram. What to write in experience section if I am a fresher and I have no internship or previous experience? Should I remove that section? Maybe, yeah. But what else can you do? You can talk about your personal interests. You can talk about your personal projects. Maybe you run a personal blog or some article that you wrote, right? Start filling in those sections with things that you can do, right? Don't just say, well, I'm a freshman, I haven't done anything. Do something about it, right? If you want to be a data scientist, then act as if you're a data scientist, right? Start looking at things, start picking up data, start creating your own dashboards, start teaching yourself visualization skills, and then include that in the resumes. Hey, I took these 3 pieces of data and I created my own visualizations. Here's a screenshot. Make that screenshot part of your resume to fill in the previous experience section that you have, right? So, kind of start doing the work. Don't just sit on your hands. Start actually doing what you can with what you do have, okay? So I hope that helps. Oh gosh, this catches my eye. I am going for an MSBA program at UIUC. My nephew is at UIUC. It's a 9-month program. How can I make sure that even with a bad market, I can find marketing analytics role in dream companies? Excuse me. That's coming from Brandzilla for you. Dream companies don't always hire you straight out of school, right? Or I shouldn't say that. It's not always a direct path to the dream companies, right? You might have to work for other companies along the way, and that's okay, right? I remember that in my career, one of the things, the progressions that I went through was that you start at smaller companies and then you go work for enterprise level companies. There is a massive difference in working for a small company. And by that, I mean, a couple dozen employees, maybe it's a single country focus or even a single region focus, to working for enterprise level, global focus, employees all around the world, clients all around the world, 24/7, activities, things like that, right? You kind of need the training as an individual to go from those smaller companies to an enterprise level. Not everyone's cut out for enterprise level straight out of school, right? So kind of, it's one of those kind of like be careful what you wish for things. So I would caution to you that it's great to have those goals for the dream companies, but don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm going to go work for this other company before I do the enterprise level experience. Enterprise level is like drinking from a fire hose, right? I didn't make that move until maybe like 4 years into my career, 3 years into my career, and I was already a senior developer, a senior software developer at other companies that were, pretty good size. So be careful about that, right? Don't be discouraged if those companies don't come calling straight out of college. That's perfectly okay. But good luck to you. And good luck at you at UIUC. That's not an easy school. Like I said, I have some connections there, and I know that's a tough engineering school, so good for you. So, folks, I am seeing that we are at 8:57 my time here. I have really enjoyed the turnout. I really enjoyed the questions. I hope that some of this has helped you. I hope that hearing some of the other answers has helped you. My DMs on Twitter and on Instagram are open, so feel free to send me follow-up questions if you'd like. I also offer mock interviews for students that want to kind of practice their interviews. I do that for a 45-minute session. I give you feedback during the session, and I also send you feedback afterwards. Or you can just schedule a general career conversation with me. I'm happy to do that with you. But I'm sorry I didn't get to all the questions. We're going to lose our stream here in a little bit because of Instagram. But, I hope this time works out for everybody. Send me a note if there's a better time for these streams, but I really love the turnout that we got. Let me know if you want to see these streams a little bit more frequent, or if there's an idea you want me to do the video on. But I really appreciate you joining me today. I hope that you're happy and safe in your part of the world. We got great participation from all over the world. That really makes me happy because, I do a lot of traveling, so I'm really happy to see everybody. But thanks for joining me today. We'll do this again soon, and take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.